Hi, how are you? So good to see you. It's been a few years now, huh?
Yeah, I think we must have met about 6 years ago.
2018 is when I launched my book. I just love the story of how we met. Pat is my publisher for my book, and I remember I was putting my book together, and I'm like, I need a publisher. And I've got friends of mine that have published their books, and I'm like, oh, should I go with the publisher that they have in their book, or should I go with their? And it so happened that I was going to Adelaide for the Mind, Body and Spirit Festival over there, and I bumped into Catherine because she had her water filter on the table at the festival, and you had the other half of the table with all the books and everything. And I've gone, this is a sign from Spirit, like, thank you, Catherine. Hi, Pat. And I didn't look back. I also love your name, your title, Heart Space Publications.
Yeah, publications.
Yeah, and so I love how we met, and, you came right on cue. So how did you start, or how did you come up with Heart Space Publications even? I mean, it's such a beautiful title for what you do as well.
The strange thing is I never had intentions of being a publisher. Well, actually I did. I had it in the background, but in years to come, I was an author, and I'd only just recently published my first book, had it published elsewhere. And about 3 months after it being published, I received a phone call from a lady by the name of Shannon, who said, I know your book has been published, and I've got a manuscript, and I would like some questions. Is that okay? And I said, yeah, no problem. I'm happy to help. And we sat for about an hour and a half on the phone. This was in South Africa. And anyway, I wished her well. We rang off, never thinking I'd hear from her again. And she phoned me up about 2 weeks later, and she said, guess what? She says, I've got my publisher. I said, what, in 2 weeks? I said, that's fantastic. And who is it? And she said, it's you. I said, what do you mean it's you? She says, you have to publish my book. Now, this woman, Shannon, she was a clairvoyant, and she was a very well-known one, and she was on the radio a lot of the time, TV. And so, by all accounts, she was good. And she got the message that I was to be the publisher. And I still fought it for a while, but in the end I gave up, and I said, okay, well, let's work together and I'll help you publish your book. And then she said, great, okay. And she turned around and she said, now, here's the good news. And I said, well, what's the good news? And she said, the book has to be ready in 6 weeks' time. I said, what? I hadn't even seen the manuscript. And then when I did see it, we had to do a virtual rewrite. But anyway, we had it ready, and the reason being was because she was doing a launch on TV for her book, as I said, in South Africa. And then once that happened, I then received a call from one of her colleagues by the name of Dorian Harhoff in South Africa. And he was publishing a book. And Dorian was a well-known author. He had published something like 19 books. And anyway, he came to me and he said, right, let's talk. And so that's it. And now something like 80 books, 85 books later, I'm still doing it.
I love it. I love it. And, I love that the healersandspsychics.com directory isn't just for like a hands-on healer. It's like for people like you, because so many people I still meet today that want to write a book, like when all digital stuff started happening, people thought that books were going to be no longer. There were some book shops that were shutting down even, but people still want to write books. And, you're a healer in my mind, because you help people put their content together and put it out there in the world. I mean, I was so grateful that for my book, Tarot Distinctions, that it moved you and you wrote a whole page that we put in the book. I felt so privileged and humbled that you did that. And like you've helped other friends of mine publish their books as well. And I'm still sending people to you. I've just sent another person to you. So, you're doing, it's beautiful healing work.
It's work that I love doing as well, because the way that I look at it, it's not a one-on-one type of work. the result is a one on many. So it goes out to many. But the thing that I try to do, and I try to do it with you, and I've tried to do it with every single one of the authors that I've helped, is that they come to me with a skill or a knowledge which they want to put in print as a book. And the book, in many ways, it's a sign of the work that they do. But they're not writers. And so they come back and the manuscripts are often pretty rugged, or they need a lot of work. And so I then try and organize my authors, not just to be a guru in their chosen field, but to become a writer. And I've helped some authors who had the intention of writing a book to put themselves out there, and now they've written several books. One of them has written about 4 books. And so they become a guru who is also a writer, as opposed to a guru who just wants to write a book. And if I can do that to people, I think that's wonderful. Give them a love of writing. I think it's great. I mean, you and I, we worked together for what? It was probably close to a 2-year period that we worked together on tarot.
Yeah.
And you started off with a great book with a great potential. And what we did is we incrementally moved it along. We changed this, we changed that. You asked questions, I asked questions. And so the process went, and I think you ended up with a wonderful book.
I'm still selling it. I don't think it'll ever be a bestseller, but it's one of those books that will always sell because people love tarot and intrigued with tarot. And the people that I know that have bought the book, they've all said, it's my Bible, it's one of the best books out there. So it's a book that will always sell because, everyone's intrigued with the subject matter.
One of the things that you have done consistently well with tarot is that you've always promoted it. You're in the industry. You're heavily active on social media. And so the book is sold consistently well over the time. I can pinpoint my authors where those who roll up their sleeves and do the social media and do the active work are the ones who sell. And the ones who don't sell invariably are the ones who do not do the social media. And so it's really an imperative this day and age for a book to get out there amongst the literally millions that are released every year. For it to be seen, it needs to be shown. And it can only be shown by the author doing what you did and being consistent. And what do you do by doing that? You give it life for as long as you continue with your work and the social media. So if you carry on as you have been for let's say next 10 years, you will sell the book for 10 years. The age is not a problem as long as you continue doing it. So you've done it well, and you've supported your own cause.
Yeah, and thank you for that, because marketing is a big part of what we do. And, I love how I showed you or shared the directory, healerspsychics.com directory with you, and you jumped on board because you understand the marketing, and we've opened it up for podcasts now, which is more content for you. And also the directory also will showcase you. We put you for a month on the homepage and showcase you. So there's another opportunity that's going to be coming along. You're on the list. When it's your turn, I'll come round to offer that one to you. But I just want to get back to some of these really cool questions that you've got here, because you must get these a lot. Like, how much does it cost? That must be one of the big first questions that people ask, I suppose.
Yeah, it is, and understandably so. But
how much does it cost? Yeah.
It obviously depends on the book. It depends on whether it's colour, like yours was, whether lots of colour plates in it, or whether it's just black and white, as in like a story. It depends on how many words. It depends on how much editing we need to do. Some of the books I get, the storyline has great potential, but the writing it needs a lot of attention. And so we have to work through that many, many times. So basically what I would do is I would edit and show the author. They will go back, do a rewrite and send it back. And then we do it again. And each time it gets cleaner. So the pricing depends. But let me say this. If it's an average book of, say, average writing, no colour plates or whatever, I try to orchestrate it that their selling price of their first lot of free books that they get covers their costs to me. So let me explain how that works. Let's say I charge an author, $2,000, say $3,000, from the word go all the way through to the end to have a published book with, say, 100 copies in their possession. When they go out and they sell those 100 copies through their social media, as we just spoke about, their friends, their audience, if they sell the 100 at $30 each, which is a reasonable price these days, that's $3,000. So they've covered their cost. And that's a great thing. I think that's a great thing. Whereas, many of the others, they're mercenary and they just charge, what they want. I always underquote. I always undercharge. I'm just happy to get, the work out. But like I said, it depends on the book. It can change depending on the book. But once an author understands that, it gives us a go ahead. And so what happens is, if the book is sold well, let's say the author sold her books, his books, fairly quickly, and now they do a reprint, all that profit is theirs now. And so let's say they make another $3,000. Well, that $3,000 is basically theirs. But I charge them at my cost plus $2. And the $2 is basically an admin fee to do it all. It means that they get their books at a much, much cheaper price. Some books, the cost may be, $9 and say $1 to get it to them, and then $2. So that's $12 and they're selling it for $30. So that's what, 18 that they're making per book. So that's kind of how the cost works. And it normally works something like that. And
I often talk to people about, wanting to write a book, and they often say, "Oh, I can't write," So how can you help them with that when someone says, "I can't write," or "I'm not good with writing"?
Well, what I do is I really like the author to write the book themselves, even if their writing is not good, because it's their work, it's their emotion, it's their empathy. They have to be able to do it better than I'm doing it. The author who wants to pay me almost as a ghostwriter to create the work, in my mind, is not an author who is as serious or loves his or her work as much as someone who is prepared to do the slog. Because, as I said, they know their work. It's part of them. It's their ethos. It's their blood. It's their heart. It's their,
their soul on paper.
It's as yours was, their soul on paper. And so, but I also have the thing is, I will never publish a book if it's not up to scratch. So we get a manuscript and it's not great. Yes, I can clear out all the grammar and the spelling and things like that. So that's not a problem, but that's effectively not changing what they do. But we will do, say, a chapter at a time. They will send me a chapter. I will then edit it using track changes so they can see what I do. And all the way through it, I will have comments and I'll say, you've used this word 45 times in this chapter. We need to change the word. You know that you've already said this four pages ago. You need to say it once. And so it goes like this. There could be a list of 50 things in the bucket. And little by little, and over a period of time, they learn and they improve their work. And like I said earlier, a lot of my clients become authors because they learn. And so we start off with something which is pretty poor or can be pretty poor, and we just rework it and we rework it and we rework it. And yes, that type of book does in fact cost more money, but if the author's determined, then they will end up with
it's worth it.
Good book. And so then we go through the next, and then they've learnt 30 things in that last chapter. So now that's 30 things that they won't need to do in the next chapter, if you know what I mean. So what I actually, especially with an author like that, I like to get an author as they start to write their book, as opposed to writing the whole book. Because if they start to write the whole book and I start teaching them and put them right onto these different aspects, then it means they write the rest of the book much cleaner, much easier for them, much cheaper for them. Whereas if they have an entire manuscript
and
already
quicker,
written, it's far quicker and it's far cheaper. So it's a process, and this is what I love about what I do, is actually hand-holding authors and really working with them closely to make sure that they're happy and they've got a good book at the end.
Yeah. Oh, when I pick up my book and I read some bits in it, I'm like, did I write that? Like, it just surprises me how brilliant it is. It's like I must have been in the zone when I did that book, but, I still surprise myself, which is, it's a wonderful feeling. And thank you very much for that all once again. What other questions here? When people say, how long does it take to publish the book? I think you sort of covered that. It takes a couple of years, a good couple of years to publish the book.
Normally it's less. I mean, the lady I'm working with at the moment, the last lady who you sent to me, she's a good writer. And the reason why it's perhaps taking longer than, an immediate publishing straight away is because between the two, it's a story, we worked out between the two of us that there needs to be more stuff in it. There needed to be more background in it and what have you. And so that's taken probably an additional 3 months. Yeah, it's taken an additional 3 months, which is not a long time if you think of it. She's great. I give her suggestions and she'll come back with, 6 or 7 days later with kind of something that's mapped out. But if it's clean, and if it's urgent,
fantastic.
We can in fact get a book out within probably minimum 6 weeks. But we could do it if it was an absolute imperative, like the first book I told you about. But I would guess most books probably take about 6 months to do. And I mean, it can be as simple as a cover. The cover can take a while because, I say to the author, I said, I would like you to design the content. That's the look and feel of the cover. And let's work on it from there, because once again, they've got it. It's their heartfelt thing. And from there, but if they don't, then I will make suggestions, and then we will, I guess like a panel beater, we will knock it here and we'll knock it there a bit in shape until we end up with what we like. And, that can take 6 weeks just for the cover once the manuscript's done. So it really depends. It can be quick. It can be long. I rather long as opposed to quick, because it basically means that the author has buy-in and wants a really good end product, as opposed to just seemingly appear to be a guru by having a book out. We want a work of art if possible.
I also remember you said about editing the book that it was never going to be 100% perfect. And, every now and then I look through and I see another error that I could have corrected, I could have fixed it up. But, this is life, isn't it? It'll never be 100% correct.
Yeah, well, I remember explaining this to you as I do to all of my authors. Okay, let's say you have a book of 100,000 words. And let's say you edit it and you edit it and you edit it and you think, this is 99% good. With 100,000 words, we still have 1,000 mistakes. You do the math. And so, 1,000 mistakes sounds like a horrendous failure. But at 1%, it's actually pretty good. I've had authors where maybe only 40% of the work is good, 60% of it is bad. 100,000 page manuscript means there is 60,000 things to fix and edit. And you put a time frame on that.
Amazing.
It can be mind-boggling. So it's really important to understand that. But I think if we can get it to 99%, we've really done well. I kind of settled on 97%. Because it's also the law of diminishing returns. It's harder and harder and harder to find each of these. But there'll always be someone who reads the book and comes back and says, do you know on page 55, you've got... There'll always be someone, no matter how few mistakes there are. But anyway, we do the best we can.
That's it. And the last question I wanted to ask you before we wrap up was about distribution. What's your involvement, or how can one distribute, or how do you support one to distribute their book? I know we talked about the marketing bit, which is very important, but what's your role that you can help them with the distribution?
Okay. I use an organisation called Lightning Source. And Lightning Source, they call themselves Publishers Logistics, and essentially they're the biggest in the world. And they have bookstores all over the world. They have distributors. They work with Amazon, and so it goes. And on paper, it sounds absolutely fantastic. And you think, oh, God, 30,000 bookstores. They're going to sell thousands and thousands and thousands of my books. But the reality is that it doesn't really work all that well, but it's the best that I can do. Let me explain. Every so often a book is sold, and we've sold a few of yours, or they've sold a few of yours, not many. Some of the other books have sold better, from Lightning Source, and, that's a good thing. Then the other type of distribution is where you've got a company who, takes on the book, and they will get it into bookstores throughout Australia and maybe other parts of the world. But the problem is this. I'm a small publisher, so they don't really give me much of a look in. And they will charge something like 60%, 65% of the selling price. So once again, you do the math, and the author has to make money. The print costs are involved. And so by the time all the math is done and you pay these people 60%, the author is sometimes lucky to get $1 a book. And so it's not worth it. And I also get annoyed with those people because they're just so mercenary. They have the attitude that, take it or leave it, we don't care. And because I'm small, I'm not, doing, 1,000 books a year or something like that. They really don't care. So I don't use them. It's as simple as that. I can't be bothered. So that's where it's so important for an author to get involved with the process, and they can sell it off their website. They can have copies, and I can sell it off my website. And basically, there have been some authors who've been immensely successful with that model. There are others who haven't. But the good thing about using Lightning Source as well, if an author does have an international audience and they get an order in America, well, Lightning Source has a printing facility in America. So the person in America can get the book within 2 weeks. There's nothing international. They print locally. The local shipping costs, which are, a few dollars, where if it's shipped from Australia, it's like, I don't know, $15 or something. It just kills the profit. If it's Germany, there's a print point in Europe. There's one in England. And so it goes. Most people don't have audiences in Asia. and so they're not overly active in Asia. So what it means is from that point of view, they do the logistics, and so they will print the book in America, they will ship it in America. I or the author don't do anything other than receive. They will then charge, what they charge, which is 20 or 30%, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on the book, depending on who they're selling it to. And so there's better profitability for the author. And so basically, that's a good model. And that's one of the other reasons why I use Lightning Source, because no one else really offers that. So, distribution.
And I like that you're using them to your advantage. You know how not to use them. So, and you're supporting the author with all of that as well. So I just want to thank you for today. I think it's been a wonderful little exercise. And, if people want to read up about your information, it's all on the listing in the Healers and Psychics directory. And I encourage you to keep going in there and updating it and adding more keywords and, and put all your social links there as well, because people will contact you and follow you that way as well. I know that just by looking at your site just the other day,
the last time I looked, it was about 80 people or something.
102 views.
Oh, okay, so that's grown.
How's that? 102 views, and that's grown a lot. And I took that on the 20th of May, and we're in June at the moment. Yeah. So it's so that's amazing how many people have viewed. And I know I've just sent somebody else to you just recently. So is there anything else that you'd like to share, or any other important note to make before we wind up here today?
Not from my point of view, in as much from a Heartspace point of view, but I just want to thank you and Andre for the work that you're doing in supporting everybody as you have done and as you are doing. The minute I saw the Healers and Psychics, I was just blown over by what good work that is, and I can only see it growing and getting bigger and helping more and more people over the years. So I think it's wonderful what you two are doing, and from my point, this video, I'm just so grateful. So thank you very much.
Well, you're going to have heaps of content now that you can cut up in little bits and share and with people. So more power to you, Pat. So you're doing wonderful work. Keep up the wonderful work. So thank you very much for today. Hopefully we can do this again and take it to another level. Yes. So all the details to find Pat and Heartspace Publications is all in the details in the description below on the Healers and Psychics directory. And look forward to seeing you there and seeing how many more views you get on your page, Pat. So all more power to you. Thank you very much for today.
Well, thank you. Namaste to you all. Thank you.